Thank you, Eric, and thank you to the Africa Chamber of Digital Commerce for this opportunity to share more about Africa Strong Inc. and the journey that we have been on to partner with our allies in Uganda and small work in Zambia as well, which is where Africa Strong got its start. I will start by sharing a little of my journey and how I got connected with work on the continent of Africa, and a little of the story of the impact that Africa Strong has had and our path forward, and where we are continuing to seek partnerships and allies and building a network to have a larger impact. So I started my career in consulting and corporate America, worked at United Health Group for 12 years, and one day I said I quit and ended up in Zambia in a community school where the first day there was no teacher in the classroom. The next day a teacher arrived, wrote a math problem on the board, solved it, wrote 3 more problems for the students to solve, and left the classroom. And this left me wondering how those students ever had an opportunity to succeed and learn, and how what their education really was like, and where they were able to develop critical thinking skills. They had dreams of becoming doctors and lawyers and pilots and teachers, and when they didn't have someone believing in them and supporting them and facilitating their learning, how was this journey and their education to become who they wanted to be supported? And that is where I met Emily and Diego, the co-founders of Africa Strong. We didn't really join forces at that point in time yet. I came back from Zambia, ultimately took a job with Health Partners Uganda. I moved to Uganda in 2017. I joined a Rotary Club. Alan, the president of the Rotary Club at the time, introduced me to his primary school in the village where he and his family were joining forces to do work to improve the education, the infrastructure at the school there. And that is when I came back, met up with Emily and Diego, and asked for some guidance on how I could work with Alan and his family to improve the conditions at Remy NG Primary
Awesome.
School.
Awesome. And I was wondering, you know, of all places in the world, what triggered that interest? How did you really interest in education? How did you just push you towards you can just touch your own?
Yeah, I think that's a question I still haven't figured out how to answer. I think I've always had something deep down as much for education as Africa. And once I landed in Zambia, it has stuck with me. I can't read the quote that I read to you the other day, Eric, but there's a quote that someone sent to me, cousin sent to me the day I was leaving Zambia, about once you visit Africa, it's in your blood. It's in your heart and it sticks with you. And I see that as being true. I go back to Uganda. I'm fortunate to visit about every 9 months, and I'm welcomed home. They recognize it as a second home, but I'm welcome home, and I feel welcome home every time I visit.
Absolutely, that's pretty awesome, and I appreciate just what you're doing, and I'm glad you're going to get was support. That's something you can't keep change our circumstances. And Minnesota is sort of so what is the interaction with friends who nurture once they employ someone we had to be minimal And if yes, no, let's hear it from you.
Yes and no. I think more of late. I think a couple weeks ago, as Eric mentioned, we were here in this room for the Emergent Africa Forum, talking a lot about digital technologies and the way forward. And as we look at Africa Strong and some of our work, we have started to look at how do we move forward in regards to education. And with COVID and school closures and that playing, I'll say exasperating the learning poverty in many of these countries, ed tech really does play a significant role. And so with that, I've gotten involved with an organization that is an ed tech platform, and it includes some of the diaspora community here. In addition, we have a representative in the room that I was recently connected to that leads and runs an organization of the local Uganda community. And so look forward to better engaging with that community and seeing where we have partnerships. Additionally, with that, have gotten connected to resources that are helping us ship Chromebooks to Uganda and jumping through hurdles of figuring out how to overcome taxes despite them being for educational purposes and other things. So continuing to learn and grow and looking for opportunities.
And the young woman is doing what the willpower, just the mental toughness to come actually. You know, it's not based on anything else to say. So, I'm telling you, actually, how as a kid, it was nice.
Yeah, you know, I often tell people that my ideal place to live would be a combination of Uganda and Minnesota. There are great things about both, and I miss things about both when I'm in either location. I absolutely had an amazing time with friends and community and all of that in Uganda. Some of the happiest people I've ever met in my life, and I think just a simpler way of life. And I appreciate and respect that and try to live more of that in my life back here. Of course, family and friends and some of the simplicity and access to things are also wonderful here. And but with all that, I would say moving by yourself to a country you don't know anything about, living in a compound of 7 units where no one else lives for 11 months was definitely an interesting adventure. Met amazing people, made some amazing friends. At the same time, I also met people who I thought were friends and turned out not to be. And part of that, through my master's in education that I came back and got after I lived in Uganda, which is in comparative and international development education, I read a book, and it was about the power of education and second chance education and how that really can have an impact on lives of empowering people.
And I just interestingly, you know, I was describing Canada, and this great building, and it kind of just, for some of us that are really familiar, how to describe, you know, just break it down for us.
Yeah. So I got my master's in comparative and international development education, and my thesis was solely focused on improving learning outcomes in under-resourced primary schools in sub-Saharan Africa. And the focus I took was on teacher professional development. As I described my experience in the primary and the community schools in Zambia, I really saw an opportunity to transform the education system through teachers. And it's not that these individuals in these community schools didn't want to do a good job.
Yeah.
They weren't necessarily empowered or set up to be successful. And so a lot of my focus has been on how can you empower and enable these teachers to do what they've been hired to do and set them up to be successful in delivering the best education possible. And so that's been a lot of our focus this year with Africa Strong is teacher professional development.
Okay. And what inspired you to work? What inspired you to make Africa part of this, right? How did you put it together? What inspired you?
Yeah, the name. Yeah, the name existed before I came along, and I think what really as I joined the organization, where we really did a lot of work was on the mission, vision, strategies, and 3 pillars. So mission and vision are really focused on how do we improve the quality of education, but where I spend a lot more time talking and thinking about is on our strategy and pillars. So strategy is partnering with like-minded organizations to achieve our success. And we're small, we're volunteer run, and have mostly operated off a family and friend board and donations. And with that, we aren't necessarily the experts of the space. And so when we see a problem, what we do is there are so many fantastic organizations doing work in so many spaces that what we want to do is bring those experts to the table to solve the problem. We don't want to recreate the solution for what someone's already doing.
And if there's anything that comes to mind about you, it's your multi-dimensionality, but not just your a leader that brings in a lot of people. And I find it really fascinating. And I know Africa, given let me kind of tackle with the diaspora community. I know Africa is 55 countries, and that's a lot. And to get us to the table, to get it tends to be challenging, you know. And I know being in Africa, working in Africa, you can't tell me I know it's the times that some challenges, I'm sure. So, what has been the most challenging experience for you in this journey? And because I wanted to be a lesson for some of us as well. You are a soldier that has been to certain countries. I myself hasn't been. So you know much more about a lot of African countries than myself and a lot of people that I know. And if you could just share with us the experience, crisscrossing some of the borders, just or just to experience the challenges where some of us can learn and hopefully progress. What are the most challenging?
Yeah, I think our focus is, I think it's that it's an ecosystem and no challenge can be really separated from the other. Our 3 pillars are to attract and retain quality educators, build conducive learning environments, and to remove access to quality barriers to quality education. And it's really hard to do one without the other. If you don't have a classroom where you have a conducive, yes, you can learn in certain situations in any environment, but when you're sitting on a rainy day under a tree trying to learn, it's really hard to. If you don't have a quality educator, again, and no textbooks, it's really hard to learn. For young girls, if there isn't access to clean water and sanitation facilities, it's really hard to learn and to keep them in school. And so one of the challenges is just it's hard to focus on one thing because it all does go together. The other is, you know, as we talk across countries and other things, those challenges are the same, but and there's opportunities where there's an 80-20 rule, I would say, of challenges are the same, but solutions are different. So when we looked at Zambia and Uganda and teacher professional development, our solutions were going to be very different. In Uganda, our rural school teachers are very engaged, head teachers very supportive, school management committee is involved. In Zambia, the community schools, the teachers barely there. And so you're solving two very different problems to try to get to a quality educator and having them in a classroom teaching students.
Okay, awesome. That's a very response. Eye-opening in a lot of ways. I want to know from the local stakeholders. That could be the armed forces, the traditional rulers. How was the reception? How did you navigate the traditional structure? You know, I would say structure, right? Or the stakeholders. How did you engage with them? Trenches.
Yeah, and that's where I think great partners and allies come in. We're here to support. We're collaborators, we're partners. In Uganda, we have thankfully some wonderful volunteers as well who believe in what we're doing, and we're doing it together. So I mentioned Alan, partner in Uganda with Budakara Foundation, a local NGO, who does a lot of that navigating. It's the local resources that we are partnering with that are navigating the district education office and working with them. When I go, we this last trip met with the Teachers College. So for our professional development program, we're trying to work within the system. So you can go out and hire a trainer. We are using CCT, which is a central coordinating tutor who is responsible for professional development through the Teachers College. So now that we've done a small scale pilot, we went and met with the Teachers College. We had to have buy-in from the beginning, but now we're talking about, can we train a couple additional CCTs? And again, working through the Teachers College with that. So leveraging the system, but again, really leveraging local resources.
Okay.
Additionally,
Sorry to interject here. Could you define what the CCTs are?
Yeah. Central coordinating tutor. So probably called something in different countries, but in Uganda, they are responsible for working with student teachers and helping develop them, as well as professional development. So the individual we work with, his name is Dominic, and he is responsible for support supervision and coaching teachers at 18 different schools. So these are practicing professions, so continuous professional development. So he's out in the field doing that continuous professional development for existing practicing teachers. He also goes to schools and does support supervision and coaching. And so even though we worked with him to train teachers at one school, indirectly, he's using what he's learned during his support supervision and coaching at 18 other schools right now. And
awesome. I now know what CCTs are. So yeah. Thank you for this micro lesson, right?
Probably so something different in every country.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hey, we're all learning. I just before we kind of just move forward, I just want to make sure the virtual audience can hear us. Hey, let's know if you can hear both Erin and I before we proceed. How's the audio?
Eric, it's better now. It's better now. You started very cool.
Awesome. Yeah. So the HOC has confirmed, we're doing good.
Much better.
just in case you're wondering, if you're joining, we're live, from the Pollard Hall, and it's we have an amazing guest here, and this is the ACOFDC Fireside Chat, and our guest today is let me not butcher, Erin, right?
Yes.
Bagniewski, right?
Bagniewski.
Bagniewski. Okay. Now I know how to pronounce it correctly. And back to the next question. I know kind of just going through your vision and mission and strategy. What's the strategy? Could you give us an idea of what your strategy is for the next 5 years, or just your roadmap for the next 5 years? It doesn't have to be the entire thing, but what does that look like?
Yeah. So we have, again, 3 pillars. 2 of them are easier, I think, to talk about a roadmap than the third, given our size. But for attracting, retain quality educators, as I mentioned, we're working with the Teachers College in the district that we are. So what we are working on doing is getting a couple of laptops to the Teachers College, and we have engaged a organization called Instill Education, based out of South Africa, that has some amazing online curriculum, and we are going to pilot using that curriculum with these central coordinating tutors, and work on getting feedback from them. What the challenge is with professional development and why it operates the way it does in many of these countries is it is costly to bring teachers together. We looked at training 1,600 teachers, and it was going to practically cost $2 million to execute on the program that we wanted to do. When you start bringing them together for 4 weeks of training, and the cost of transport and allowances and meals and coffee and tea, it adds up. On average, it was about $110 per teacher. So not that significant, but when you start doing the size and scaling it, it does get costly. So we are now looking at how we can potentially do it online. We're also in communication with a school that's doing performance management pilot, so we can learn from them on incenting teachers to do online learning and further advance their skills. Additionally, working with an ed tech program that long-term looks at training teachers online as well as incenting them through the platform. So day job kind of overlapping with nonprofit job. And so that's really the path forward in the attract and retain quality educators. And so I'd say from an ask perspective, if there's anyone in the audience, we're always looking for educators that have deep knowledge in the space and interested in helping coach our resources and partner with us as we move forward to ensure that we're going down the right track, and help us look at monitoring and evaluation to ensure that what we're doing is having an impact and value before we look at moving it forward and scaling it.
Awesome. And right now I know the universe is smiling. Erin, you've been this is an incredible story, and I can't be any prouder of what you're doing as an African. I know Africa can be is bold, is blessed, and also comes with the challenges as well. But for you to have the courage to step into and be inspired and be part of what you're doing, and your team and others, I personally want to thank you for the job you're doing. And also let's not forget, this is an inspiration for both young girls out there, and also an inspiration for just why we should highlight the women more, and some of the things they're doing. It's absolutely, I think it's extraordinary, because I know there's some of us that live, we come from a certain country, out of Africa, and we've not stepped into a few counties, so as LGAs as they call it there. But for you to go to embark on this journey to change life, I think the universe, I think it's worthy of emulation, and I'm glad we're able to have you today. And I just want to I want us to kind of just I want to explore other sides of you that a lot of people probably the the lighter side of you. In terms of interest, growing up as a Minnesota girl, what are the things you grew up, doing? Were you a hockey girl, or were you a Viking girl, or twins, girl, or what else were you doing? What was fun for you and family and the rest of them?
I grew up in La Crosse, Wisconsin, so I have to say I'm a Packer fan.
Sorry, edit, self-edit.
Not sure how that's going this year.
Okay, I know grandma's watching, Ma's watching, your mother is watching. Apologies, she's a Packer girl. Okay, let's just go ahead.
But yes, sports, not, hockey's not nearly as big in Wisconsin, so volleyball, basketball, softball, so definitely into sports. Probably was, yes, into the leadership stuff at school. I'm trying to think back. National Honor Society.
Come on, you gotta mention the
cheese. All that stuff. So yes,
as a Wisconsinite, yes. Yeah.
I like cheese.
Yeah, can you give us five of your favorite, or just one?
I still like pizza.
Okay, just your favorite.
Cheese,
right? Okay, yeah, okay. We can roll with that. So as you were saying, what are the things that kept you pretty busy, just growing up, as a Wisconsinite?
Yeah, I think it was sports, playing around the neighborhood with kids.
Okay.
I'm number 2 of 4 kids, so busy family, stay close with family.
Yeah.
Have extended family around on both sides. So my dad is one of 7, my mom's one of 5. So big families, lots of cousins. Actually just
Awesome.
Went away for the night on Saturday night. Half of the group with us that I considered a friend trip away was actually family. So
awesome.
Yeah.
And I know your mom is here watching, virtually, via Zoom. And I would just want to just want her to know that we're part of what you're doing. She's Caroline, right?
Yep.
Caroline, we just want we want you to know that we appreciate what your daughter is doing, and as an African, we are proud of what she's doing and the impact she's creating and the lives she's changing. You have a great daughter, and we just want to make sure you did. I just want to let you know that you did a heck of a job, with Erin, and for her to, exemplify what she's doing now. So we want to make sure we give you your due as well. I know you, as a mom, you did your part, and to have her grow and do what she's doing as a grown and an intelligent, woman, it has to come from somewhere.
Thank you, and we're very proud of her too.
You as well. And going back to your days, from Wisconsin, back to Minnesota. Now I know you do have you work with other organizations as well. I know Enoch is one of them. Could you kind of share with the virtual audience and in person, the audience and the people that are here today? What's the relationship with Enox, and how what has been the experience?
Yeah, so Enox is a edtech platform. It's a startup going through a funding phase right now, and so I've been, I'll say, a volunteer employee since January ultimately. But excited to be able to just kind of see all my worlds coming together, everything from more of my IT background in my early days of consulting to applying my degree to my experience on the ground in Uganda, and really seeing it all come together, and the potential that education can have. The co-founders really have a vision of the impact that a new education can have, and I think there's just endless potential of ideas and ways that we can reach people in new and different ways and meet people where we're at. And so excited about the opportunities and potential and things to come. Additionally, then I guess serve on the board of Books for Africa. So excited about some of the work we're doing there, and hope to ship over 4 million books to Africa, and have been involved in a project called Book for Every Child. So would like to, in each country, see if we can find a marketing advertising vendor to help with distribution of a book, to get a book in every child's hand in Africa.
Awesome. You know, I love the response. I did describe, you know, you as a multifaceted, you know, a person. The skills, applying your skills in a multifaceted way, just create impact, you know, beyond Minnesota, beyond the United States. That is just amazing. And I want to touch on, let's just quickly touch on, I know during the Emergent Africa Forum, you are the, I was referring to you as a super delegate. You know, I know you've been, you've been, I've seen the kind of investment, you know, you've made, you know, in terms of resource, you know, just supporting what we're doing. I just want to, on behalf of others, I want to thank you for just making that investment, you know, picking up those tickets as well. We appreciate, you know, you doing that, you know, tremendously. And it's good to, I know resources, it comes in, especially now, it's pretty tight, you know, for you to make that kind of investment, you know, and I felt, you know, it's something worth, you know, acknowledging. And I want to shift gears a little bit. Your organization, I know a resource can be a little challenging, right? So what's the strategy going forward to be able to mobilize, you know, required resource for you to do more? I know in the business of non-profit or whatever it is you do in changing lives, you know, finance, you know, it goes hand in hand. So what's the strategy going forward? You know, how do you intend to do more and able to have people come along and support what you're doing?
Yeah, I think big realization on trip to Uganda in September, that to continue to have an impact and make sure we're serving the community in the most effective way, we need to grow beyond the one school where we're servicing. We've, when we started, the enrollment was in 2018 around 450 students. It's grown to 700 and is projected to grow to about 1,000 because of the investments done at the school. And it will continue to be a model school. However, students are flocking from other schools in the community to this school. And so from a strategy perspective, we really need to understand the needs at nearby schools and start investing in those so that we don't completely overwhelm one school and don't start work at the others. So from a strategy perspective, we're looking at how do we find an organization that helps with education financing to help Remy and the school we currently work at become more self-sustaining. They already get revenue from boarding students, they have a food program, and they want to invest in a multi-purpose hall that can be rented out for additional income and revenue. But there's money that needs to be invested there, and we'd like to do it in more of a self-sustaining way. So that's one kind of strategic thing we're looking at, rather than donor dollars. How do we get them more in a education loan financing program to be funded that way while we move on to the next school. One of the things that we've loved about that partnership is that it was always a partnership of the work that was done. We've never contributed more than 50%. 50% of the funds have always come from the community and
Okay.
local support, which has been what's been successful.
Awesome, awesome. This is just I could listen to you like, for another 5-10 hours, it's just I have the more I get to I know you and the things that you do, I have it's just I'm awed by by it. The truth is, if you ask me to kind of just travel to one of those African countries that you go to, I might shake myself and it will take a little more than a whole lot of convincing. So I honestly admire the courage and everything that you put into this to do what you're doing. So as an organization, how do you? I know sustenance is really important. So I know you as a woman, we live in a world, we like it or not, there are a lot of the challenges, are different, they come in different, it's multifaceted. At first, there's the element of it that is gender, the gender bias is there, and also and other things that you have to deal with, So how do you navigate? How do you, what do you want to say to, especially people that can support you, or even donors and stuff like that? Coming from your experience as a woman with the challenges that you're dealing with, how can we just share with us, what you want, folks to do more to support some of this type of initiatives?
Yeah, I think there's probably two answers to that. One, I don't have the data, but I do think there's data out there as you look at startups and others that women startups are more successful than others. And I think it's maybe from a risk perspective, planning perspective, there's just certain things ingrained in how things operate and we think. The second, as far as getting involved in contributions, I don't think money's always great, but I think it's twofold. I think as we think through this, even going back to the professional development, and I talked about working upstream more in the teachers college, I think we can work across countries. So if others are looking at doing similar work, as we're thinking through how do we do a pilot, what does this really look like from a program perspective? It doesn't have to be limited to a pilot in Uganda. I think it can be broader than that and welcome collaboration on that. And then just kind of maybe going back to the scaling, we brought on a new board member in Uganda. She's going to start looking for local donations and local organizations in Uganda to start supporting the cause. So I think that's important as well. As we look at kind of growing, I think it's important to show that it's not all outside investments, that there are local investments as well.
Awesome. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to hydrate. Thank you, Erin, for sharing your story. And now we're going to take a pause for a second and then allow, Q&A for virtual, Q&A, virtual and in-person Q&A. So while you're hydrating, I'm urging, the virtual audience and in-person, audience, to line up their questions. If you have any questions in after 30 seconds, we want to give you the opportunity to contribute, via questions, and get those questions ready while Erin here, hydrate. So we're going to be back in 30 seconds, but meanwhile, we'll just allow everybody, including the virtual audience and others, to grab a little water or whatever it is that works for you and get ready. But this has been a production of the Decentralized Media, part of the ACOFDC Africa Chamber of Digital Commerce, coming to you live from the heart of Minneapolis, Minnesota, and we have an amazing guest here. And and before we get back to our guest today, I just wanted I want to urge the women out there. some of us are putting a lot of effort into highlighting women that are doing incredible things. I think others, have to step up and support. We want to see other women supporting other women as well. It's really critical. And I want to acknowledge the presence of, Sarah here for just being, for doing, just being a great support for anything that is happening within the community, the diaspora community, and our effort as well. What she's doing. Also her contributions to the continent of Africa, and we're going to have her as our next guest, in a couple of weeks. But my personal plea is we need women to step up for the women. When we, some of us men are advocating for the women in society, we need others. When we call for you to come and support, women that are doing incredible things in society, just like Sarah is doing, we need you to step forward and be that presence. That's something I really want to urge other women that are going to watch this either on replay or are right in there in the virtual audience. Thank you for being here today. And yeah, so we're fully hydrated and we're ready to go. Back to you, Erin. Let's see. We have. I just want to see if we have any questions from the virtual audience. I want to turn to Sarah and see if there's any question that she has, or anybody in the virtual audience, or even in person. Quickly, any questions from anybody? Okay, if the head of communications is there, please retype the questions so that we can it pops up in the charts so that we're able to read it out to Erin here. Okay, there's a question.
And so what I'm hearing, see a lot of Web3 and blockchain education moving around in Africa. And my question is, how do you see the divide or difference in what we expect the kids who can understand blockchain and governance and all of that, and yet we're struggling trying to get kids to do math problems and teachers to help? How do we address the divide in terms of discrepancy?
Yeah, and I will, appreciate the question. Thank you. I won't claim to be an expert in this space, and I think those are the questions we're trying to understand. I think our biggest thing is not to be afraid of letting kids be smarter than us. When I was there in September, we went to 2 schools that had e-readers in the schools, and they only have qualitative data at this point, but they talked about how having the textbooks on e-readers in the schools and the student being able to just click on a word and a definition, pulling up how that's improved sight word recognition, reading skills, and just the reading and literacy overall qualitatively so far. Additionally, spent time in 2 different schools, one talking more with senior 5 and senior 6 students that are part of a ICT club, and asked them, if we were to bring Enox here, what would be of interest, epic games, blockchain training, crypto training, and started throwing out Twinmotion, Unreal Engine, all these things. And I mean, their eyes were lighting up. They all knew what it was. Like they probably could have told me what some of it was. And so they're aware of it. They don't have access to it. And that's in some cases more students probably than teachers. And so I think it's going to be a fine balance, because in a lot of cases, the feedback and pushback has, we have to start with digital literacy even, and computer literacy with the teachers. And so I think there's opportunity where there's, empowering kids to use their skills and use their leadership skills to help lead in the class and show the way. I think it will be different in every school, and I think we have a lot to learn still.
Dad wants to know, are you satisfied with the number of students choosing to go into education as a profession in Uganda?
I think overall, and I have statistics here, I'll try not to look at them. Individuals going into education is down. Some of what we're looking at with Enox is, what are the incentives to go into education? And like with students and learn to earn model, is there that opportunity with teachers too? And are there incentive-based programs? And or as you open up possibilities and start teaching and giving people access to more skills and more jobs, does that hurt individuals staying in teacher profession? I think is a question that goes through my mind. And so I think there's a huge opportunity to continue to understand what drives a teacher to teach and what keeps them in that profession. I know some of what's being talked about is AI teachers, and does EdTech increase the ability to have more students in a classroom and to teach effectively? And I think in a lot of these situations, that's not even a question on the table, because you're already in a classroom of 100 students. So does it just allow you to be more effective in that classroom, but not actually increase the class size? So there's a teacher shortage of 70 million teachers around the world. 24.4 million of those are in primary school. Half the teacher shortage is in sub-Saharan Africa and so Southern Asia. And so it's a challenge. It's going to be here by 2030. Fast action is needed. I don't know if anyone has identified the challenge to that, because it's a balance, and so much focus I think has been on quality of education and upskilling teachers, that at the same time we can't forget about the teacher shortage and what we need to be doing to incent teachers to go into the field today. So hopefully that answered it. I don't know. I'm not as in depth.
Thank you.
I mean, there are a lot of organizations out there, specifically with Africa Strong. One thing we talked about is that might be something that the local community takes on, more than something that we expand into. But again, I know there are organizations out there that do that. One reason Africa Strong has not gone that route is because we focused on efforts that more support the larger number of students versus one individual. And it's been a hard choice at times because we've seen students go so far and then not be able to continue. However, I know specifically at Remianchi, they do not stop that and cause that as a barrier. They find other ways to ensure that that school student stays in school. At some point that may become prohibitive, but they ensure that that is not a barrier and that they create ways that they waive fees. So.
Okay, so just in case you're wondering, the question is about scholarship related. So how can with lack of scholarships that has led to kids dropping out of schools and what have you, how can what can you share, what are you urging people out there, how can they support in making sure those kinds of scholarships are able to be available for kids, especially particularly the girls. We're looking at it from a gender standpoint. A lot of challenges, a lot of things that they have to deal with, emotionally, and a lot of things that they have to also deal with as girl child, and the support. So the challenges, tend to be, in the, not one, but multiple. How can we make sure we're able to unburden, we do a bit of unburdening for the girls as well? If you could just touch on that, how can, is it through making sure, is it a DEI thing or is it a CSR thing? How can we have those scholarships, be more available, readily available for students, to kind of mitigate, the issue of, dropping out of school and stuff?
Scholarships, again, haven't been one that we've gone deep in because it's an individual and we've had limited funds. So with our limited funds, we've focused on trying to support as many students as we can. With that being said, that's also why we've focused on primary school, is because we want to have the biggest impact we can while a student is still in school. The second part of that is we have done some initiatives, and one of our pillars is removing barriers to accessing quality education. In that, the main thing is reusable menstruation kits. And we did our first round of that at our primary school right before COVID. We're looking to do more of that. However, looking to use a local organization to support us in that, and they are having problems getting the right material. So if anyone has access to textile plants that have scrap materials that they donate and ship to Uganda, I'll let you know. So those are two ways we're looking at, or why we focused on what we focused and why scholarships hasn't been a focus, and what we're doing to remove barriers for young girls. The other is on our roadmap, we are looking at a Lima technology solution that does water purification, which is another barrier, so that students, particularly girls, do not need to be bothered by going to fetch water. Regarding scholarships, one organization that I have looked at some is Opportunity International's education financing program. Talked a little about it earlier in regards to the school financing, but they also work with schools on student fee loans for parents as an alternative to scholarships. And so that's one I have not gone deep in, but that is kind of on the, let's say, outside of everything else we're looking at. It's a volunteer organization. Again, there's so many options and things that you can do. So if there's anyone out there doing work in the space and has recommendations and or has cracked the nut that we can connect with, I do welcome it.
Awesome. And I'd like to follow up the follow-up question for you as well. Are you recruiting? Are you recruiting volunteers? Are you recruiting interns? How can people be involved? Even if they're not financially able to help what you're doing. What else can both locals and people in the diaspora here do to enhance what you're doing? Erin?
Yeah, we are always recruiting board members. We will have a few board positions coming up specifically would be recruiting, I'd say anyone interested in helping with social media and marketing, as well as anyone that would be interested in staying on the board as a treasurer. Those are definitely two key positions where we are looking to build up more of our expertise. And then in general, I think if based on what you've heard today, if you have interest, we're always welcoming help to help set our strategy and path forward.
Awesome, awesome. You know, hey, how time flies, right? We have less than 20 minutes to go, and I hope you still have, you know, hey, you have, you know, the good thing we have good water, and not just an ordinary water, right? Yeah, okay, we have a question. Let's make it a little more exciting. Go ahead. Go, Sarah.
Yeah, so one of the first projects we did at the school, again, driven by the school, supported by us, was teacher housing. It reduced teacher absenteeism from 40% to 5%. And
We're gonna
each-
talk to that, you know, we're gonna.
and whether it's helped, because since then, enrollment has increased, so new teachers have come on. So now, of course, we're back into a shortage of teacher housing. But it's allowed the teachers then to be on site, more focused on lesson planning and having more time to dedicate to their teaching and their practices versus that. Additionally, again, from February to May, we did the teacher professional development, got feedback from the teachers in February when I was there, and feedback was, I now have better relationships with my students. I now know how to better utilize the resources in my environment to make my lessons more interactive. I now have better skills to match my teaching methods with the lesson and content of what I'm trying to deliver. And so we're excited to see updated scores and where that goes. With that being said, when we talk about scores, it's all in the primary leaving exam. There's a huge emphasis, which I also consider a barrier and a challenge, of everything is focused on primary leaving exams and tests.
Yeah.
In Uganda, they're in the process of switching over to a competency-based curriculum. So I think it's 40% of tests will be more on practical, where 60% is still on exam, but it's a shift where there will be more practical lessons and practical application brought into how teaching is done. With that being said, how things get rolled out is often that it's not rolled out in a way where they're taught hands-on of what you're expected to practice.
Yeah.
It's very much in a lecture form, and so we still believe that there's opportunity to continue with continuous professional development, the resources that Instill Education offers to offer that continuous professional development, enhance the skills of teachers, and give them what they're asking for.
Awesome. I think both teachers and students will benefit tremendously in what I describe, immersive, learning, in addition to just what they get out of their test books and what have you, they're able to, just interact with some, it could be tools, it could be some of the devices that you've provided. That as you have seen, it has really enhanced, their learning, and that you're able to document, just what what that has created, the added value it has created. So, and I know before we run, we're fast running out of time. Before we go, I just want you to share. You have handled this like a pro. I don't know if you've, of course you've done this. So you're not, you're quite a natural with the camera and your responses and everything, articulation and everything. And I'm sure the virtual audience and others will agree with me. You've responded quite, intelligently, and also in a way that everyone that is watching or will watch this on replay will find, tremendous value in this rich, content. Before we go, why don't you share the Africa Strong, Inc. From emails to social handles and website and things like that? How can people connect with you and the organization if you want to help?
Yeah, directly with me, Erin at africastrong.org. And then our website is africastrong.org. Facebook, you'll find us at Africa Strong Inc. Instagram, the same, and we are also on LinkedIn. So yes, please look us up, follow us. Our website will get you opportunity to sign up for our newsletter. That is quarterly, sometimes delayed. Again, all volunteers, so we in our spare time get out what we can, and so appreciate today the opportunity to share our story and our journey, and hope to connect with others and continue to learn from others as we collaborate to do work to improve the education across the world.
Awesome. And if you want to hear more on their vision and also their mission and also the strategy that they continue to deploy and also re-engineer, please do reach out, through those through the email or social platforms, directly or indirectly. As they highlighted in the document that I have with me here, part of their strategy is to partner with like-minded organizations to address the three underlying challenges that prevent students from receiving a quality and relevant education today. So attract and retain quality educators, conducive learning environment, access to quality education. If you align, there's an alignment in those three areas, please do reach out and make sure you connect with Erin and make sure you're able to, even if it's virtually, set up a meeting and see and explore partnerships. And if you want to participate as a volunteer or even an intern, I'm sure there are other ways you could help the organization. But this has been an amazing, experience for me. And I would like to say we are proud of what you're doing here at the Africa Chamber of Digital Commerce, and I will continue to champion what you're doing and also what other women and other men and women are doing in society to add value to the African, immigrant, to the diaspora community, to the African continent as well. Not just talking about it, but actually through your actions and just consistency, we consider you a great ally, a true ally that is doing so much, and I feel I want to urge, some of us are from the continent, to look at what you're doing as a template, and also to be inspired by what you're doing to do more on the continent, from in all parts of Africa, and even here in our communities here in the United States or North America. This has been quite a fireside chat like none, and it gladdened my mind, my heart as well, that we have you here, Erin, to share your story and what you're doing with the organization, how you added value in the community, how you added value in the world in an extraordinary manner. This has been a delightful, an hour plus or thereabout. I've lost, track of. Yes, and last but not the least, we are going to let Sarah, and Sarah will have the floor and the opportunity to ask a few questions before we call it a wrap.